Hi, everyone. Good evening. And again, welcome to Breathe. We are here for episode 6 today, and I am so excited, so elated that we are here tonight with a very, very precious person that is dear to me, and she's going to help us with managing toxic family members, right? We know all relationships, they have their ups and downs, and certainly we engage with people that are hard to deal with, and we have family members that have behaviors, and we tend to gleam over it sometimes, even at the risk of our own mental health and our own physical health. However, as I said, tonight I want to open up an intentional discussion about managing and coping with toxic family members. Those family members who identify as bullies, that we identify as bullies, right? Controlling, abusive, and always being the victim when it comes to something. Those family members, right? They're unreasonable and they lie at the drop of a dime. You know the family members that I'm talking about, and they completely wear you out, right? And so tonight we want to open up a dialogue with our wonderful guest. Her name is Eileen McMillen, and she's going to be here tonight to join us and give us some great understanding and support so we don't feel so worn out, right? And everything. And as you know, as I always say, Breathe is not here to substitute or take the place of any type of therapy that you are attending or that you may need to be attending, but we're here as a support, right? To encourage and to empower you along your journey to being healthy with your mental health. And as always, if you are feeling any type of mental crisis, any type of suicidal ideations, anything, and you need to talk, you are to call 988 and talk to one of the crisis members or go to your local hospital so that you can get the support you need. And tonight, I just want to welcome, I want to introduce her first because, you guys are going to enjoy her. You're going to love her. We're going to have fun. Eileen is actually a licensed marriage and family therapist with extensive experience, right? She's worked with individuals, couples, families, helping them to navigate life's challenges, which we all have, right? And in her private practice, she does have a private practice, and you'll get to be introduced to that at the end of our show tonight. It's called Eileen Christina Counseling and Coaching. And Eileen specializes there in a private practice with helping people with communication strategies and managing conflict and helping you build a healthier you, right? Be more resilient. You guys know how I feel about being resilient, and to help you actually work toward healthy relationships. She is very dedicated in that area, and she's helped people grow, make deeper connections, not only with others, but with themselves. And you know what? She's a great person even outside of work, working with people and being a therapist. She is fun. She has fun. She likes to have fun. She loves reading. It's one of her great pastimes. She loves mystery novels. And guess what, people? She's a baker. So I might have to ask her to bake me something because I love me some sweets, right? She's truly a joy. And she's madly in love with her family, madly in love with her son, and his name is Connor. She's madly in love with her soon-to-be husband, Sam. They are the joys of her life, and they are also pet people. I understand that they have a mirage of different pets. And so tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to the stage for a wonderful conversation tonight, Miss Eileen McMillen.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Tracy. Fantastic.
Good.
Every time I talk to you, it feels so good about me every time.
I love that. And that's how we're supposed to. When we hear somebody, just cheering us on, we should feel good about ourselves. And I am so honored that you are here tonight with us, Eileen. When I first met you, I already knew that you were like this, and I'm gonna boost you up. This intelligent, caring, empathetic person who was compassionate and very passionate about the people that she serves. And so I found it a joy that you graced us tonight to be here at Breathe. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. So I just want to start off by saying, of course, we're talking about toxic people and toxicity. It's been like this buzzword for a while now, much like narcissism, narcissistic, and gaslighting.
Yeah.
Everybody uses it. And, it's just become a description for people that annoy us, people we have difficulties with and problems with. You know what? And not to be funny, but even people that we dislike, we tend to name them, oh, she's toxic, he's toxic, But tonight, I just really want to dive down in and can you help us gain some insight into maybe the difference between what we would be considered toxic versus just a person that's difficult to get along with?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my practice, I often hear clients complain about their partners, their parents, their other family members. They call them toxic. It's just kind of become this catch-all term for anybody who doesn't make us feel good. Most recently, narcissist. Like everybody's a narcissist now. And some people are they're just selfish or they're emotionally immature, right? And yes,
Mm-hmm.
toxic people are selfish and emotionally mature, but uh, the real difficult thing here is to determine between the two. And so just having those qualities is not quite what we're talking about when we say someone is toxic. A difficult person likely means well,
Mm.
right? Like you call it to their attention to what they're doing. They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like they'll say something that lets you know that they really do mean well. They just don't have the emotional resources, right? They may even
Mm-hmm.
have a deep desire to make changes to their behavior and heal the relationship if you call attention to it. So that's
Mm.
someone who's difficult. A toxic family member is someone whose pattern of manipulative, controlling, or emotionally abusive behavior consistently causes distress and harm to you or other people in
Mm.
your family,
Mm.
and is not open or willing to have those conversations about addressing the impact of their behaviors on you. In fact, those conversations tend to be off limits with them.
Wow.
So I like to think of it kind of like the difference between a wound and a tumor. So like a wound
Mm-hmm.
can be treated, even if it hurts, and it might take a long time, but you can work on that. A tumor probably needs to be cut off because it's
Wow.
not helping your health. So
Wow. That brings into so much perspective, when you think about the difference between difficult and somebody just is not good. It's toxic. It, like you said, it needs to be cut out when you think about a tumor, because when I think about a tumor, to even just go further with that, I think about it metastasizing
yeah.
and
Mhm.
ending up destroying something else, even, and even threatening our health.
Yeah, rarely is it isolated to just one person, that like the toxic behavior only affecting one person. Although sometimes that you can see that like,
Mm-hmm.
someone isolates one person in the family as like the target. But yes, usually they're toxic with a lot of different people. And then if you do have a toxic person in your life, that's going to not only affect, you know, you personally, but it's going to affect your other relationships and it's going to
Wow.
start seeping into other parts of your life. So yeah, when you take that analogy of metastasizing, that can really look like that for sure. And so, you want to look for some key behaviors when you're determining whether somebody is in fact toxic versus just
Mhm,
difficult. So, is this something that really has hope to be worked on, or
mhm,
might I need to be thinking about something else? And so, some of the things that I like to look for, obviously, you mentioned at the top of the session is emotional abuse.
mm,
So it's going to be like really degrading comments, insults, other behaviors that are designed to really undermine your self worth, your self esteem, constant negativity, being critical. Sometimes they like to joke about it, like, "Oh, you better go get your food before Eileen goes to the potluck line because there won't be anything left." You know how she likes,
yes.
like they'll be all jokey about it, and then if you say something, then they kind of become manipulative and they turn it back on you. Like, "Oh, you're so sensitive. Can't you just take a joke?"
Oh my
So they're guilt tripping. They're kind of playing into that shame factor. They play the victim. Like, "Oh, I was. why are you being so sensitive here? I was just making jokes. You don't need to take it out on me. And so those are like trying to manipulate your behavior. They don't have any empathy for your situation, things like that. Boundary violations, which I'm sure we'll get into, because when we're talking about toxic people, boundaries are a real thing. And then you also mentioned gaslighting. I want to make sure we talk about that. Can I just say, can I get on my soapbox?
Come on, get on your soapbox.
Okay. All right. So in this age of like social media mental health, which is great because it makes it accessible to a lot of people that didn't have that before, it also takes these terms like narcissist, like gaslighting, and dilutes it to a point where it loses a lot of its meaning.
Yeah.
And so a toxic behavior, a person's behavior is going to include gaslighting. But here's what that means. So they're making you question your reality, your memories, and your perceptions, often denying their previous statements or actions to make you doubt yourself. So people misuse this to think like, oh, they're just disagreeing with my version of events. They're gaslighting. No, that's not what this is. This is someone who's intentionally creating a false narrative with the goal of making you question your own reality. We see this a lot in like cheating partners who are trying to like cover their tracks, throw you off their scent. They really just want to make you question your own gut, your own intuition, your own perceptions, so that you stop pushing back on their behaviors. And so when I say gaslighting, that's what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, that true gaslighting, not just with a difficult person who's pushing your buttons, maybe, right? Because I have a younger brother, and all through life, he liked to joke and just push my buttons to mess with me. And then I would turn around and push his buttons and mess with him, so that's just, like a little difficult relationship, but we grew out of that, thank God. Yeah. But with a toxic person, I think about people, when you were talking about narcissists and everything, I think about people with personality disorders, whether they've been diagnosed or they're underdiagnosed or have never gone to get diagnosed or anything. And I think about it being related to personality disorders, because I know they tend to, especially when they're not diagnosed, tend to have the ability to tear families apart when there's not proper support. It's like dysfunction at its finest in everything. So I wanted to ask you, much like growing up in a dysfunctional family or environment, we know that it can shape our behavior and our mental health as we get older, going through development and everything. But how can dealing with a toxic family member affect our mental health?
Oh, yeah, no, this is huge. So especially long-term exposure to these toxic family members, and chances are you've been dealing with them since childhood, because families are, they're hard to shake, as they should be. Like,
love that.
So, if you've been dealing with this since you were a little kid, this kind of long-term exposure, it can have really serious effects on your mental health, your emotional health, which ultimately can affect your physical health. It all kind of just stacks up. So chronic stress from these interactions can lead to feelings of anxiety, depression, other mental health issues. If it's very serious, we're talking also about trauma or chronic PTSD from growing up in abusive homes. And you might experience a constant sense of tension and unease, making it like really difficult to ever feel relaxed or at peace, certainly when you're with them, but also in other areas of your life, just when you're like by yourself and, you're just alone with your thoughts. Now it's their voice in your head that you're hearing. That one becomes very loud, and that's hard to shake, which just increases the anxiety, increases the depression. The constant criticism and abuse can also make you doubt your abilities, your values, can lead to feelings of inadequacy, low self-confidence, low self-worth, all this stuff, which then makes it really difficult to move through life, to kind of go after that job that you want, or to make changes to your physical health, or to have healthy relationships. And so those voices become really, really loud in your head, especially if you've been exposed to them for a long time. And then this chronic stress then shifts into like physical health issues with, like, research has shown that chronic stress can lead to headaches, high blood pressure, weakened immune system. You get sick more often, things like that. So now you're missing work, and, it's function. And so it really is all encompassing. So we're talking about like toxic. This is something that needs to be purged because it's seriously, it's affecting you in a really serious way, in all facets of your life. So
Wow, this is so good. And it's making me go back and think about even some of the clients that I've seen in the past that were managing and living and dealing with, toxic family members, and how I I I saw it, but it caused them, like you said, to have this low self-worth and low self-esteem and everything. And you couldn't work, I couldn't work with them on anything else,
right.
to help them, like you said, go after that job, go after going to school like they wanted to, until we dealt with the root of what was going on in their life with that family member. And they would report like headaches and stomach aches and just anxiety, and thinking about having to spend time with them at a
Mhm.
gathering, and things like that. And one of the things that I often attempted to do when I was supporting them was to get them to prioritize their
Yeah.
health, their mental health, right? So that everything would fall in line. So, with someone who is seeking to prioritize their mental health, as it relates to interacting with toxic family members, what are some of the maybe actions that would benefit them, that would be beneficial to them?
Yeah, sure. So first, as much as possible, you want to limit your interaction with this person and create some space between you, both literally and figuratively. So this
Mm,
might involve cutting down on phone calls or visits, or other forms of contact that you have with them. If you live with them, if you're in the home with them, you might need to find ways to create physical and emotional space within the home,
mm,
spending time in different areas of the house, engaging in activities outside of the house. So really kind of creating that distance in that space. Now, what you don't want to do is let this lead to isolation, which is
wow.
just as destructive. Like loneliness is its own podcast topic. So we can
Yes.
explore it at a different
We'll
time.
probably have to have you back for that one.
Yeah, so like which is equally as damaging to your physical health. So you want to make sure that, okay, as you're stepping away from this toxic relationship, that you're filling that with other healthy relationships that are going to be building you up. So build a support system of people that you can rely on, who will actively work to build you up instead of tearing you down like this toxic person is. So you want to have other voices in your head,
I
not
love
the bad
it.
kind, but the kind that you surround yourself with, that you can turn up the volume on those,
Mhm,
trying to drown out the negative ones that can get really, really loud. And I know many of us have friends that are more like family than some of our own family members because they've
mhm,
been there for us for a long time. They're
mhm,
always supportive. We need something, they're there. And so rely on these people as you're creating this separation, the distance from the toxic family member,
mhm,
so that you have that support system there. You also want to make sure you're prioritizing self care. So
mm,
anything that brings you joy and peace in the midst of the toxicity is going to be helpful here. So if you
mm.
see them every day or nearly every day, like you live close by or something like that, make sure you're practicing daily routines, whatever that looks like for
I
you.
like that.
Like a daily routine that you're setting up and making a daily habit. If you're seeing them only around special occasions, then you'll want to fortify yourself before the visit. So build yourself up, strengthen yourself, and then recharge afterwards. So after the visit, you're going to want to find ways to, like, okay, tap back into your sense of self, kind of
Mm,
detox from whatever negativity you were experiencing when you were there. Um, yeah, it makes me think of my fiance. Him and his
uh-huh,
father have very different political views, and
mm,
so when he goes to visit his dad,
mhm,
he's exposed like in a huge way to his dad's political views, and so
mhm,
when he comes home, he's got to like cleanse all that so that he can
mhm.
reset and recharge and kind of like get back to himself. So he calls it the big reset.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah, so that's, prioritizing self-care in the dailies and then also around these
Mhm,
big events as well. It's going to be helpful. And finally, and I think this is probably going to be the most important, is to use clear, assertive communication when you're talking
mm,
to them, and then establish strong, healthy boundaries with them. Which, of
yeah.
course, it's going to be a challenge because, like we said, one of the hallmarks of someone who's toxic is they like to mess with your boundaries and
Mhm.
violate those all over the place. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't set them. So,
I
That's
love that. I love that. Let's reiterate that. It does not mean that you should not set boundaries just because someone is hostile or destructive and do not effectively, manage and keep people's boundaries. And
Mhm.
again, Eileen, this is so good. I remember working with a couple of clients, then they were dealing with this very thing, right? And what we did, we adopted a safety plan, sort of much like you would do with a domestic violence,
Yeah.
or somebody that is self-harming or has suicidal ideations and different things. We would set up this safety plan that would almost be like, okay, if we're feeling like this when we're around them, this is what we do at
Yeah.
this moment, or this is who I can call.
Yeah.
And even part of the safety plan, one person, she would not be alone with that person. And so anytime that she knew she was going to be in an environment with that family member, she would also always make sure a friend or somebody came with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that can also really help. I had a client recently who, she struggled with a mother who, the relationship was strained at times, and
Hmm.
mom engaged in some of these like kind of gaslighting behaviors and
Yeah.
manipulation. And so she would start to question her own reality. But when her fiance started to go with her to the events, then she could like check with him, like, did
Hmm.
that just happen? Like,
Hmm.
am I crazy here? And so her
Hmm.
friend was like, no, like that really just happened. And no, you're not crazy. I saw that too. And so she's
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, I feel better. And so he could just like support her through that. So yeah,
Oh
having
yeah.
a safe person, that's huge. And I
Yeah.
love that, having those coping skills that you can readily go to and pull from when you
Hmm.
start to feel those moments of discomfort around the
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes, because I have those people too in my life. Whenever I'm thinking, okay, am I reading this right? Is this person really acting toxic right now? Is this really happening? Then I do. There's two people, and I don't mind. My brother is one of them. I will text him, email him, and I'm saying, is this me or is this
Right?
person?
But no, but that's so huge because I
Yeah.
think sometimes we also get, after we've been exposed to this person for a while, we start to become more sensitive to what they're
Yes.
doing. And so then you start like, okay, am I just being dramatic here? Or is this something? Is this a thing? And so it can
Yes.
help to have someone you trust to bounce that off of. And sometimes they'll be like, well, no, that's just like normal mom behavior. Like that's what moms do versus
Mhm.
no, that's crazy. So
Oh, I love that. I know you were mentioning boundaries, and I really wanted to discuss that a little further. Can you share with us, for those that might be watching now or in the future for a playback, that might be, they're not at a stage or strong enough to say, you know what, I'm cutting this person all the way off. We don't need this relationship, with this toxic family member. How can they work to set better boundaries with this family member who continues and refuses not to be toxic?
yeah, absolutely. So, first, whenever you're setting boundaries, it's really important to remember that you don't set boundaries to control other people's behavior.
Mm,
Possible thing to attempt. Boundaries set up expectations for your behavior in response to theirs. That's all it is. So, by focusing on what you need and how you'll respond if that need is not met or that line is crossed, then that's how you set that healthy boundary. So, this might look like, if you continue to call me names, I'm going to hang up the phone. You can call
mm,
me back when you're able to speak with respect.
mhm,
Or if you keep talking to me like that, I'm going to leave the room. We can continue this conversation when we can talk about it calmly. Or please don't comment on the way I look. If this continues, I'm going to stop coming to family dinner until we can find
mhm.
a way that to interact that feels better.
Yes.
So notice in these statements, you're making it very clear what you expect from them, from the other
Mhm.
person, and how you are going to respond
Mm,
if their behavior doesn't change. You're not saying like you must act this way. It's if you
mhm.
continue to do this, here's what I'm going to do in response. And so it sets up those clear expectations because let's face it, with a toxic family member, they're unlikely to change their behavior. So then you need to be prepared to respond when they
Ooh,
act that way.
I like that.
Yeah.
I
And
like that. Take action because it is, again, more than likely there is some type of personality disorder. And if they're not getting support for that disorder, then they're not going to change their behavior. It's going to be something that's consistent. And I love the point that you made, Eileen, when you said you cannot change their behavior. This is a expectation, and it's giving you a chance to say, this is how I'm going to respond. That is so good right there, because I think a lot of people, when they set boundaries, and I'm going to say all of us at times in the past and now, when we set boundaries, we think of just telling a person, you're not going to treat me like that anymore, right? But I love that you take it even further and say, this is what's going to happen if this behavior continues and everything.
Right. And to be clear, the hardest part of setting boundaries is not actually setting them. It's following through what you said you're going to do when they continue to act in that way. Hanging up the phone, skipping the family dinner. So you need to be prepared for the backlash that you're going to face for following through on your boundaries, because there will be backlash. Their poor response does not mean that you're doing the wrong thing. Just because they blow up doesn't mean, oh, well, maybe I'm being too harsh. No, you're deciding what feels good for you, and you're asking for what you need, and that's appropriate. And they'll want you to think that you're being dramatic or going too far, because they like to manipulate, right? So their response is simply an indicator that they've probably been benefiting from the lack of boundaries in the relationship, and they don't want to be held accountable for their bad behavior. So you are not the problem here. So what you need to focus on now is managing your own discomfort. That's probably going to come from enforcing the boundaries, having good coping skills, like we talked about, self-care practice, strong support system. It's all going to be super helpful here.
That is so good. That is so good. You know what? I just feel like there's somebody out there tonight that may come and watch this, and they're such a people pleaser. They don't want to hurt people's feelings. They want everybody to be, like them. And this is going to be so good for them to hear and everything about setting these boundaries and being safe, right? Because disrespect is disrespect, and you can't make anybody respect you, but you can remove yourself from the disrespect and everything.
You can respect yourself enough to remove yourself from it. So that's all you really can do.
I love that. We've talked a lot about even the characteristics of a toxic person tonight, Eileen. Before we move into and discuss, because I want to discuss your beautiful practice and everything, before we move to that tonight, can you share with us maybe some signs or some things that tell us it is time to remove ourselves from the disrespect, to disengage, to sever this relationship altogether with this toxic family member?
Yeah. And this is like a really deeply personal decision that needs to be made with careful consideration and full understanding of what this will mean in a really practical sense. I don't advocate for walking away from a relationship when we're just talking about normal family conflict and disagreements. Kind of cut off isn't healthy. But when it comes to, again, this persistent pattern of toxicity, sometimes stepping away or even just taking a break.
I like that.
Something like that. This is the best thing for your health and well-being. So what you want to look for is if they're consistently violating those boundaries that you've set up, if it becomes increasingly difficult for you to regulate your emotions when you're around them, if their behaviors are affecting your self-esteem and your self-worth, and it's preventing you from doing things like working effectively or building healthy relationships, or their presence in your life is causing chronic feelings of stress and anxiety, like that persistent inability to feel peace. So ultimately, if they're not willing to accept responsibility for their actions and work towards healing, then there's nothing more you can really do on your own. Relationships have to be a two-way street. You can't control them. You can only control yourself, your actions, your decisions, your responses, all that stuff. So obviously, this is much easier to say than to actually put into practice, because the reality is that when you walk away from a relationship with one family member, you might have to create distance with other family members as a result you do have a strong relationship with. So let's say your dad is a toxic one. Creating that separation might mean you don't get to talk to your mom or see your mom as frequently. If it's, your grandma, maybe you can't go to Christmas dinner because Grammy's not going to be disinvited. So you have to make those decisions. Okay, I'm saying no to this relationship, which means I might be saying no to other relationships, but I'm saying yes to my peace and my overall well-being, which is really
Mhm.
important. So just, it's important. This is why having that support network is going to be really, really huge. And
Mhm.
having a therapist, preferably, to help you walk through the grief and the loss that comes from losing not just the relationship with a toxic member,
Yeah.
all the peripheral relationships, and also the grief of losing the hope of having like that
Wow.
mother-daughter relationship or whatever it was that you were hoping for, like realizing I'm never going to have that. That's hard. I need to grieve that loss. And so
Wow.
that's something you need to do with help.
Wow. Not a lot of people talk about that part, Eileen,
Mhm.
about that grief. You hear people say, oh, you can't do that. That's your mom. You only got one mom, and things like that. And they don't know the difficulty at which, or abuse that a person has been subjected to, like you said, even from childhood possibility, with dealing with some toxic family members. But to hear someone say and acknowledge that there is actually grief surrounded around the hope that this person would be different with you, that the relationship would be different, that there would even be a relationship. That's big. And thank you for that.
Yeah.
Wow. Love that. And I just want to take this moment to introduce everybody to your counseling services and everything, and give us an idea of what it is you do at your practice, who you serve, how people can get in touch with you and different things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a 100% virtual practice in the state of Florida. I work, I would say it's probably 70-30
Mhm.
couples versus
Mhm.
individuals, but I do have quite a few individuals who come to me with family issues, either issues with parenting or with their own parents, or sometimes they just need to come and talk about their partner who doesn't want to join them in therapy. Um,
Mm,
so I work with all types. I also work with couples in conflict. What I will say is usually people wait too long. They wait until
mm.
just past the point of, can we return? I don't know. And so sometimes we have to figure out, sometimes that's what they're coming to me for, like, is this salvageable? And so we talk about, what do they want and can they get there? And if we think that they can, all right, how do we get them there? So I'm really kind of goal focused, solution oriented, trying to be really practical and feel like we're doing something, not just talking about doing something. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at Eileen Christina at, or counseling, I'm sorry, counseling at eileenchristina.com, or you can visit my website to learn more about me, my practice, and what I do at eileenchristina.com. So,
Oh, I love that. I love that. And how often do you see patients? Is it a Monday through Friday only, or do you have some special hours that you
yeah,
take in?
no, I see clients Monday through Friday, unless I'm, doing mom stuff.
Mhm.
School age kids, it gets a little crazy sometimes. But Monday through Friday, from 8:30 to 3:30 or 4:30, depending on the day. So yeah, I have a
Nice.
pretty good schedule, and I love what I do. And some people come and like, is this too much? Am I too much? Am I stressing you out? I'm like, no, I love this. This is great. So.
Oh, I love this, and I will say I know you're good at what you do, and so, ladies and gentlemen, like Eileen said, sometimes we wait too long when we're having relationship issues, or there's conflict in a relationship, and things get a little too far out of hand. When you see that, reach out to Eileen. Especially if you're in the state of Florida, reach out to her and say, hey, you know what? I'm thinking about this in my relationship and just want to, come and discuss a few things. This is going to be good for you. This is going to be excellent for you. It's not only going to just help you in the relationship where you find yourself having conflict, like Eileen said earlier, it's going to help you with other areas of your life, your health, your physical health. It's going to help you with your relationship with friends and on the job, right? Because a lot of times, uh, when we have issues at home and then we got to go to a toxic work environment, it just
Yeah,
blows
a
things
lot,
up.
a lot.
So yeah, so I want you to reach out to Eileen. You see her email on the screen, and also you can visit her at her website and get to know. I love perusing her website and getting to see, you know, her practice intimately and everything. And you can always reach out to us at Fresh Start if you want to reach out. You guys know that where we are on the internet and everything. Just go to our website. You can go back if you need to write down some of the tips that Eileen shared with us tonight. Go back and rewatch the video. Go back and you know, share with other people. I know you know somebody that's dealing with this. Share with them. And then you can also email Fresh Start at our email address if you live outside of the state of Florida and you maybe need a referral to another therapist in your state. Reach out to Fresh Start. That's one of the things that we do, is we try to give you resources for the things that you are experiencing so that you can be a better you, be the best you that you want to be, right? Because I could think of a million ways that you could be better, but the best that you desire to be. And then you guys know that we are on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can find our right there at our call letters at Fresh Start for her and everything. And I just want to take this time, Eileen, to just thank you. I mean, you're such a wealth of knowledge and everything. I've been through some things in my life, and I wish I had a therapist like you for some family issues. And instead of, like you said, letting things get too far, and then we've got to climb our way, you know, back to each other and everything. And you guys know me. I'm going to always mesh evidence-based along with faith-based. And so for those of you out there that believe in the power of prayer and that your faith is surely secured in Christ Jesus and who he is for you and to you, believe me, he is for the family. He created family. He loves family. And so do what you can to rectify situations and be open and honest and use prayer, use some biblical principles, but mostly take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself, because no matter what, Christ wants you to be whole in all things and in all areas. And so that also means your mental health. Do everything you can to keep peace within inside yourself so that you are able to love appropriately and give of yourself appropriately. Eileen, I just want to give you the floor for maybe some closing remarks and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a
My
blast. I
honor.
so enjoyed this. It's really nice. I just want to remind you that your toxic family members' behavior towards you, it's not your fault, nor is it your responsibility to fix them. Everyone is responsible for their own behavior, and that includes you and everything you do from here moving forward, right? So I see a lot of clients that grew up in toxic households, and I tell them two things. First, understand that your family member is most likely perpetuating a cycle of toxicity.
Wow.
So they're probably doing the best they can with the emotional resources that they have.
Yeah.
That said, you still deserve better, right?
Yes.
Even if they're doing their best is probably not good enough for what you need. Okay.
Wow.
So make the hard choices for you. The other thing I say is that while you're not responsible for how others treated you, you are responsible for what you're going to do about it now. So do the work, start healing, find the help you need to move through this to a place of peace. Be the cycle breaker. So if toxicity is a cycle in your family, be the one to break the cycle. Like there's ripple effects that come from healing. They're huge. They're huge. And so when Tracy says, you know, God wants you to take care of yourself, that's because the ripple effects from that, they reach so much further and do so much more good, continuing to operate from a place of hurt. So do the work. It's hard, but it's so worth it.
It's so worth it. So worth it. And again, if you are in Florida, please reach out to Eileen and do the work with her. because I guarantee you're going to like what you experience, and you're going to be thrilled about what you encounter on the other side of it. And so, Eileen, thank you for joining us. I'm going to do a few housewarming or house cleaning, rather, as they say, items, and then I'm going to come right back to you when I close out. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, oh my God, Eileen McMillen, licensed family, marriage, and therapist. I'm going to have to tell her when we have our talk afterwards that she needs to start her own podcast, video blog, what have you, because she's a wealth of knowledge. And I haven't said that to many people before. And I really believe that Eileen can give so much to everybody. And so I'm going to be pulling it on her to think about that and everything. Listen, we will not be here. You know, I usually announce what our next Breathe episode is about. We will not be here for the month of March, because I'm going to do some self-care in the month of March, and I'm taking the whole month off from any type of ministry work, any type of giving and empowering and encouraging. And I'm going to take all of that and pour it on myself in the month of March. But we will be back in April, and I will let you know. I do know in April, I'm going to be working with one of my clinical supervisors that helped raise me up in the clinical setting and with patients and everything. She's going to be with us. Her name is Rita Brown. So she'll be with us in April. And then in May, what we're looking to do is host a night of just discussion, because and you guys know that it's dear to me. It's going to be Lupus Awareness Month in May, as it always is. And you know, I always try to do something special. And so we're going to talk to somebody that works with chronically ill people and helping them, you know, through depression, through the anxiety of having chronic illness and things of that nature. And so those are the things that are coming up. But remember, we will not be here for the month of March. However, the one day that we are doing something is March the 1st. And I'm so excited for all of the ladies that have registered. It's just been a beautiful response to this event. There is still time to register. If you are in the Virginia area, the Maryland, Washington, D.C., North Carolina area, you just jump on our website and register and come and be with us next Saturday in Richmond, Virginia, as we gather a host of brilliant therapists, mental health advocates to speak into your life and to where you are. We are specifically hosting this for Black women. We want to pour into you, beautiful, on this Saturday, this next Saturday. So that is open. The registration is open until Thursday, and you are more than welcome to join us. And again, I just want to thank everybody for being here with us. We appreciate you at Breathe. And as always, take time to do some self-care and breathe. God bless you, and you have a wonderful night. This has been another episode of Breathe with Dr. Tracy Gibson. Thank you for joining us. And as always, remember to breathe and do some good self-care.